Welcome
to another episode
of Driving to the Res
with your favorite host, Larry.
And Inelia.
Yes, we both know how to say our names excellently.
We do.
So this is clearly, if you've gotten here from the roundabout ways, we actually don't know how you got here.
We don't have no. That'd be nice, actually. If people posted on our Telegram channel how they found our podcast. That would be great.
Sure.
You can find us at Inelia Benz on the Telegram.
Sure.
The Telegram.
On the Telegram.
And this is just the first half.
Yeah, you do have an Inelia Benz on Telegram. You also have a Inelia Benz Drive It to the Res on Substack.
No, we don't actually.
You have an Inelia Benz on Substack, yeah.
Yes, Inelia Benz on Substack, yeah.
Right, and you have a Woofer Thought on Substack.
Yes.
And you have the Weed Talks on Substack.
Yes.
And you have a Subscribe Star.
If you like this conversation, this free half or part, then go on to Subscribe Star and get the second part. It's usually a lot longer, the second part, and it's way more in depth, super interesting. So far, we've been having Ilya and Adelina join us in the second half with amazing questions, and now we have further individuals who are joining us while they're busy with their newborn baby. Congratulations, Pandias, on your new boy.
Yes.
So, yeah, really fascinating expansion of all the topics that we talk about on the first part of this podcast. And you get to support our work by becoming a patron of the light, a Subscribe Star. So go there. There's two options in Subscribe Star. One of them is the second part of the podcast. And the second part is the second tier is you also get a class in focus that you can study outside to the vault there, the library, and also you can study it with everybody there. And there's a special call that is done around the class where there's a group study and sharing of experiences. So,
right,
really nice. 2 tiers. And the 2 tiers are really basically you becoming a sponsor of our work. And then you get kind of goodies, right? Yeah.
Patron of the light.
Yeah. And you get goodies and you get our thank you.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really nice.
And so also, this is our first part is going to be based on an article that I suggest you read. Mm-hmm. And where do you find it at? Substack. There you go. Let's just go to Substack and search Inelia Benz. You'll find it.
Yeah. And now I'm busy trying to find...
And now you're trying to find it?
Yes, because I don't know why my menus are not coming up. And
this month, or this week's Substack article is about... timelines, right?
Timeline Earth.
Timelines is a conversation I think that's interesting to have. I don't know, but it probably is worth defining what you even mean by timeline.
Yes, the definition of everything is really important because what a person might consider to be a timeline, another person says, no, that's not a timeline.
That's not a timeline. That's a different dimension.
That's a different something.
That's an alternative reality. That's not a timeline.
Or some people say timelines don't exist, but then you ask them, well, what's your definition of timeline? So it's quantum physics. It's like, okay.
So quantum physics doesn't exist? Okay, fine.
Yeah. So, it's like the definition to me is actually like alternative or parallel realities that exist in a multiverse of experience. And to me, the soul is our soul or our oversoul is a singular construct, and that soul can have experiences in many, many timelines at what we might call in our perception of linear time a different timeline, because we have agreed as a human species to have a different rules of engagement and reality agreements, and one of them is linear time, that humans experience life as, and you can find a lot of evidence of what that might be or what that is explained as. And the concept, if you take away linear times, then alternative timelines then become a different thing, but they're still the same experience, which is your soul having the experience of you. It's still you, but it could be in a different body. It could be like the reality experience, like organized, collaborative creation of physicality is completely different to this one. And it can go from very, very similar to this one with just a couple of things different to very, very, so different that there isn't even an actual physical universe here. So, like, the variation is infinite. The mechanics behind us using timelines that I have perceived, and you might, if you're just new to this, you might think, well, how does she perceive things? Well, I can perceive things slightly different to other people, and that has become interesting to many. That's all I can say about it, you know. So the way I can perceive, and I've noticed that usually I can perceive more aspects of something than other people do. So, for example, when there's those videos of a gorilla walking through a group of people who are playing a sort of game and you're told to focus on something, how many times the girls jump or how many times the ball is passed around or whatever, and the person is focusing, counting really, really focused on that item. A person dressed as a gorilla walks by and nobody sees them. That hasn't worked on me because I have always seen them, because one of the capacities that I and many, many other people have is the capacity to have a focus of attention on one particular item. So you're counting the balls, but at the same time, your awareness doesn't shrink to just that. You can see the whole picture. So it's a little bit like that. So from that perspective of seeing, I noticed from a young age that the reality and people coming in and out of our reality and people's reality sometimes would differ from each other, or sometimes the entire reality would change and everybody remembered a different past than what I knew that had happened. And I didn't have words for it because I was too young. But, you know, the words timelines is something I learned later on. So, okay, that's a good word for it, right? It's not exactly accurate because time, it doesn't actually exist, but okay, that's a good one. It's a perceptual explanation of what's happening, the movement of matter through space. And our ability to experience that in bite-sized pieces. So, from that explanation, do you think there's some clearer understanding of timelines, or did you just worse?
Worse than me by far. But I think I could summarize it a little bit.
All right, go ahead. You tell it.
I'll try it this way. In fewer words, it's an agreed construct of experience that has a past and a probable future attached to it. A line of experience. And
what about the present?
The experience of it, the past is supported of the present. In other words, if you look in the mirror and you see you have blue eyes, you remember you always had blue eyes. Even if they weren't blue forever. Right. Maybe they were green. Maybe they're purple. Who knows what. But you only remember, for the most part, within this agreed construct, what it is that you see now. Yeah. Everything you remember supports that. And everything that comes forward is as a consequence of now. That kind of a thing. Yeah. So a timeline would be one of those agreed lines of experience.
Yes.
That, it's well connected. Front and back and in the middle. It has a continuity.
Yes.
That's how I think of a timeline. So if you switch timelines, maybe you're you don't have two sisters and a brother. You only have two sisters and no brother, and you never had a brother. Right. And maybe you used to have a brother. These kind of things. So, but you don't ever remember there being a brother, and you don't have a future where there's a brother that impacted, and you're not the consequence of the experiences you had with a brother. The brother just no longer exists. So now your new timeline doesn't have any of that whole other past in it or the memory of it. It just is supported by, your whole present is supported by a new memory of the past. Yes. Different timeline.
Right.
Something
very
like
good.
that.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Okay.
And our brains are so good that even if you did wake up and you remember your brother and went to his room, and there's no room for your brother there. You go, whoa, I had a really interesting dream where I had a brother.
I think I had a past life memory.
Or that.
Or a past life memory. We'll figure out some way of reconciling it so that doesn't infringe too much. And that's within a certain band of awareness that we're, having our experience here, right? Yeah. Some, like you, have that awareness that doesn't include forgetting.
Right. There are some bits that I do, because the forgetting part is our choice.
Indeed.
But I found that a lot of it, I hadn't forgotten. I remember once this guy came back, one of our students came to an event, and he had brown eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And then he came back to another event the next year, and he had blue eyes. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, do you remember the conversation we talked about how odd it was that you had brown eyes from where you come from and you're of heritage? Last year, and he says, yeah, I don't know why we had that conversation, because I have blue eyes. So it's so funny. You can remember the conversation, but not why we had it. Like, it's such an odd conversation.
Yeah, that's so non sequitur. Alrighty, well, give it a read, hon.
All right, let's start reading it.
So now we have an idea what we mean by titling.
Yes, we do have an idea now. Yeah. My first memory of my guild was me wearing a little grey uniform given to kids who are not classifiable.
Not classifiable. Classifiable? What do you mean?
Classified. So the human collective, this is not part of the article, so now you get a gem.
Oh, good.
The human collective has the capacity to generate children who are interested in a skill that the human collective needs for the next stage of human collective living.
Okay.
So, for example, if the next stage of collective living involves building cities in the ocean, then for entire 1 or 2 or even 3 or 4 generations, many people will be born with a fascination about creating cities and a fascination of the ocean.
And joining the two.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So that's how the human collective functions. That's how it works.
Imagine how fun that would be to have a floating city where you're in the middle of the ocean, and I mean, you can imagine the storms that come. How fun that would be to have giant waves, and you have a city beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, designed for taking advantage of those waves. So I know if you've seen on the beach where they have the waves coming, it goes whoosh, whatever those are called.
Waves.
Wave. The waves come in and the water squirts way up.
Oh, yeah.
It goes through a hole and it comes out the top. I don't remember what those are called, but, you could make a bunch of those. Can you imagine how cool that would be?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, in the other timeline, that's exactly how people live in large cities.
Nice.
Not everybody, but a lot of people prefer that. They love it.
Okay. Well, you're not classifiable, meaning... You're not like an architect, or you're not like a
lawyer.
You're not like
a farmer.
It's not obvious what your talent or skill or whatever is.
Yeah.
It's not like singularly obvious.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. The big lady was looking intently at me, frowning. There's no biting, Rosie.
No biting, Rosie.
Look at me. We do not bite. Do you understand? I was a wild child. He pushed me. Did he now? I will have words with him too, but if someone upsets you again, you come to me. No biting, okay? I looked at her, I felt into her mind, and saw that her thoughts were saying, she's such a tiny little cutie pie. I wonder how long I can keep this frown. She's as tough as nails, which is good. If she gives me the puppy eyes, I won't be able to tell her off. Of course, her thoughts were not words. They were images and feelings. It was experiential telepathy. So I saw the perfect instructions on how to stop her being mad at me. My head tipped down a little bit. My eyes got very big, and as I looked at her, my lips trembled a little bit, and tiny drops of water welled in my eyes. It was over. Like, oh, it's okay, darling.
It'll be okay.
It's gonna be all right. She's,
Yes.
What does this story have to do with timelines? Well, it didn't happen in this one. It happened in a different timeline where I grew up and lived in for about 50 years.
50?
Yeah. Before I describe the circumstances of my timeline change, I want to mention that it was interesting to me that in this current timeline there are many movies that depict the guilt concept and how children are placed in them, and the fear and nastiness around kids that cannot be classified to fit in a box.
Yeah, I remember a few movies like that.
Yeah. I did think about writing this as a Woo for Thought essay. It is a long story, but I am dedicating the platform of it to enlightenment for the next few publications of Woo for Thought.
The Woo one.
Yeah. I want to bring timelines back into awareness now, not in the future, although I might do, in the future also, but now it's actually quite important. Okay, first let's look at the circumstances of my timeline change.
All right.
We all have memories of what happened to us as children. Often, though, our memories are in conflict with those other people who we share those years with. The Mandela Effect is something that is now broadly known in the world and is evidence that depicts the remembrance of a change in a collective timeline.
If you're not familiar with the Mandela Effect, just search it. You can find 1,000 examples, probably 5 or 10 or 15 in a heartbeat that you'll go like, no way, that's not what it is. Mm-hmm. You'll go, I know it was. And then you go to your bookcase and you look it up. It's like, oh, what?
Yeah, that's all changed.
Holy moly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mandela Effect.
Yeah.
Different memory of the, how would you say it? It's like you remember something, but all the evidence in the place that you're existing doesn't support how you remember it.
Exactly.
Even though you remember it that way, and everyone that you talk to that's around you will also probably, many of them, remember it that same way. And then when you show them, they're the same. It's like, how'd that happen?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had a little experience like that once. I was walking down a street in a city. Can't remember what city. Probably Madrid or something. And a man started walking towards me, and we looked at each other and smiled really big because we were best friends. And it was so nice to, run into each other in the middle of the city, right? And we both got to where we were and looked at each other, and at the experiential telepathy way, it says, oh, wait, we don't know each other in this timeline. No, we don't.
Okay.
We're strangers. Okay, I guess we'll just walk past each other like we pretend we don't know each other. Yeah, I think we should do that.
Don't want to bust this matrix.
And we did. It was so hilarious.
My favorite is the interview with the vampire.
Oh, interview with a vampire. Uh-oh.
Oh, honey.
What's going on with the vampire?
How could you?
But...
Oh, your heart.
Yes. Must be Sunday, 1:00. When we're recording this. That's a loud alarm. So, tell us about the vampire, honey.
Well, I know it's interview with a vampire, because interview the vampire doesn't make any dang sense, because there wasn't the vampire. There was way more than one vampire. Mm-hmm. But I remember that one being one that I looked at and I knew it wasn't right. I knew that wasn't how it was written. But then when I looked, it was that way.
Yeah.
And then when I looked at the copy, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure I found one that didn't have it the way that it's now remembered. It had it the other way. Mm-hmm. But it was significant to you because you were writing your book, interview with an alien. Mm-hmm. And you had looked it up specifically so that you wouldn't have the same title structure as something else. Right. So you know for a fact how it was, and it wasn't that way again. Yeah. It wasn't that way when we looked the second time. Yeah. Because it's interview with the vampire instead of interview with a vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tricky.
It is tricky, yeah.
As time goes on, they'll become more and more convinced and comfortable with it in its new way. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Interview with the vampire doesn't sound too bad now.
Right. As a kid, in this timeline, I did have full awareness of timeline changes, both at a collective level and a singular level. Sometimes a person would pop in from a different timeline, and everyone remembered them as having always been in this one. And sometimes a person would vanish from this one, and no one remembered them having ever existed. Another aspect was the shocking difference in memory, sometimes week to week, between people. And yes, sometimes a person would have green eyes, and the next week their eyes would be brown or blue or vice versa. But again, most everyone would remember them as always having the same color eyes, or at best wondering why they had never really noticed their eye color before.
Yep.
I want us to ponder timelines because it now appears like the split is going to be experienced as a timeline divergence. I say appears because I have not felt that this was a timeline divergence in the past, but that the split was going to happen in this one single timeline we are in together now.
Speaking of which, I mean, it's worth defining what we mean by split.
Yes.
Yeah. I generally think of it as like I thought of it like there's gosh, how to make it easy, right? You know, just like, hey, there's a world with drama and there's a world that don't have drama. And drama is the central piece of.
Right.
Like
experience.
Not
war, slavery,
slavery drama, savior drama, martyr drama. What other kind of drama? Murder,
war,
dark death,
torture,
very big
enslavements,
giant constructs that need resolved and fixed, and there's go fix it's that kind of world. That one that most of us are trying. I mean, most of us that we're talking to right now are trying to, or wishing to, or to have a desire to fix it, because when we came here, we knew that's not right, right? But then it somehow snagged us into fixing. So we're trying to fix something that it's already perfect in its own way, but it's not what we came here to experience.
Right.
So the split is those two realities splitting apart into different compatible places.
Yeah.
Right. So can you think of a better way to say it?
No, I think you covered it.
Good enough? Okay.
Yeah. So I want to explain a little bit about that experience of the split. Up to now, I didn't actually know what it would end up like. It felt to me like we would have two different planets in this timeline. But now it's starting to feel like it's going to be a timeline divergence. So this reality will split into two different timelines. That's how it's starting to feel.
Two major ones.
And I can only go by personal experience and personal interpretation of data. And I'm not all-knowing. I'm not omnipotent. So that's why I say it feels like, or it's looking like, right?
It seems more acceptable to experience it as that. When I say acceptable, it makes it more easily experienced, right?
So,
because the alternative ways of splitting the timelines, or the alternative ways that the splits have happened in the past experiences that we've had have been rather, I guess, traumatic would be the word. Dramatically traumatic.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. There was
giant
floods, asteroid, whatever, big, huge catastrophe. Even in a local area, you can have a giant catastrophe that alters the entire experience of everyone in the place. They move the entire city even.
Yeah.
And it's a linear experience, but it is a timeline. It is a different experience later, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, yeah, it's starting to feel a little bit like a timeline split, like a divergence. This timeline split it into two. One is still a power over others experiences, and the other one is a natural exploration, inspiration, high-frequency experience where there's no slavery, no power over others, where, everybody can live in a mansion because that's our natural state. If they wanted
it seems a little bit like the drama timeline group wants to go out with a bang, not a whimper.
They're trying really hard.
And it allows the bang to happen.
Yeah, they're really hard. They're trying really hard to do that, for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe they have in many aspects. Maybe there's tons of difference diverging into lots of different timelines. I don't know, but it's starting to feel that way for me.
Okay, it makes some sense.
Okay, back to the story of my own jump in timelines.
Okay.
In 2016, I think it was, I was traveling back from California, USA, to Washington, USA. Larry picked me up at the airport, I think, and we were on our last 5-hour drive home. At some point in the trip, I felt a wave hit me. Then I opened my eyes, and I did not recognize anything around me. The first thought was that perhaps I'd had a stroke. But I could speak, function in all ways. As my disorientation cleared, I looked around and found myself on a light vehicle known as a car with two strangers, one man driving and a teenage child in the back seat. I quickly scanned my memories to see if I could figure out what was happening. I saw many memories accessible to me that were not mine as Rosie. 50 years of them, in fact. I was both shocked and fascinated by these unreal memories. I looked at my body and found it to be different. She was small, weak, sickly, injured, and very, very aged. The man was Larry, and the child was his youngest daughter, but at the time I didn't know their names or who they were. As the hours went by, I told Larry what had happened. To me, he was a total stranger. The next few days, I had trouble eating the so-called food in this timeline and tried to replicate the nourishing and live food from the other timeline. I did not succeed. That was quite funny, wasn't it? Because to me, you were a total stranger. I didn't know who the hell you were. And we got home, and it's like, okay, where are you going to sleep?
I remember there were quite a few things in our life together that, as many people look at you and think that's a normal person or a normal girl or this or that. And most all of us who listen to this podcast or have spent much time around you know that that's not entirely true, actually. And oftentimes we may even forget that that's not entirely true. Mm. But this was one of those experiences, much like being introduced to the Wii, where I'm like, yep, okay, let's see, now what do we do? How does this work? Mm-hmm. Because logically, you never met me before.
Oh, never.
It's like
this, I never met this man before.
How are we going to, get along, honey?
Yeah.
Do you like me? Do you like guys who drive trucks and go fishing once in a while?
It's like, I don't know, but if they're
in living on a boat or wherever it was we were living at the time.
On the Inelia, yes.
We have one big bed, and are we going to have a moat in between us? Or?
We did. I put lots of pillows in between us because it's like I was coming to sleep with this total stranger. Now I was like, I'm going to put all these pillows there.
Yes.
And I remember you said to me, "Oh, don't worry about it. You're going to fall in love with me anytime soon."
It's bound to happen.
It's bound to happen. It was so funny. Anyways, that was quite funny.
It was.
She wants to come to work.
Yep, she's ready to go to work finally. She's sunbathing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, today it is the memories from that other timeline that I consider not quite real. Since then, I have met some people who I recognize from that other timeline, including a lady who told me not to bite. She's much younger than me in this timeline, and I'm still not used to cars, roads, and the light-dark paradigm here. I still have strong experiential telepathy connections with my other timeline whenever I can't find answer in this one, or I feel homesick. My class Mining Timelines was created before my personal experience of changing timelines, and it teaches how to have experiential experiences, or memories, after I did that a little bit, in other timelines, and bringing back the wisdoms we have learned there.
Wisdoms or skills or whatever.
Yeah, wisdoms and skills, back into this timeline. In this class, I do mention how some people have physically changed timelines and remember about the previous ones, but I did not have that personal experience of it at the time, but now I do. Right,
so that's a little bit tangled up, but basically
yes.
There's a class called Mining Timelines that you introduced some years ago,
and
it was before you had your actual timeline shift.
Yeah. And remember every single detail.
And remember things in detail like that. But in the Mining Timelines class, you yourself, who are listening, could go and tap into the timeline where maybe you're an expert painter or something.
Yeah.
And sort of bring some of that natural skill to now. Mm-hmm. And give yourself a boost.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So then I go on to talk about how in our podcast we're going to explore it a little bit further, be more interested in certain things and all the others. And make sure to listen to the full episode, first and second parts. Get that subscribe star thing because the second part of this one is going to be interesting.
Should be interesting to see
what the group comes up with. Yeah.
What questions come up.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. I just kind of puts me into a little bit of a remembering going to bed that night. And it was strange anyway, because you were gone for a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
and so when you came back, you were a half stranger, and then you were really a stranger.
Yeah.
And it was like we were completely becoming reacquainted entirely from not ever meeting each other before. Mm. And it's a little bit also like, I know you look similar. I mean, as far as I remember, the same, but maybe a little different. But your mannerisms were different, and your entire view of the world was different. Yeah. Your solidity was much different. You were more permanent. It didn't feel so temporary, because when you left, you felt like you were a very will-o'-the-wisp, temporary in nature, not really here. And sort of like, well, I have to be here for XYZ, so I guess I'm here, but I barely want to be here. Kind of like
energy, or like no interest,
not interested,
no attachment to life or death, nothing. It's like there's no attachments.
Yeah, and so the other timeline you didn't have near that level.
No, because in the other timeline, the way I was brought up was by individuals who were, well, the other time is not in the light dark paradigm, just to begin with.
Okay.
So there's nothing like...
And when we say light dark paradigm, that's the drama world. Others. The drama world.
Yeah, power over others and slavery and all that type of stuff.
Okay.
So there was no like fear about who I was or trying to take me out. It was very nourishing. It was very like the development of a singular expression of a person like Inelia was different. It was nourished. It was understood. Although at first it wasn't, there was a lot of interest by those individuals in guilds that dealt with, well, let's say just aliens, to make it easier. And so they were experts in communication, in understanding. They were open to possibilities and all these things. So even as a newborn baby and then growing up and everything, they were very, very fascinated and interested. Even before I was born even, they could tell that the frequencies were different and they were interested in what was coming, right? And the why and all the other things. I have to also say that in that timeline, people live as long as they want to and choose to. Of course, there's accidents, but there's a methodology of healing that can bring a person back even from an accident, even if they have chosen to carry on living.
Yeah, even if it appears that they're dead.
Even if it appears that they're dead,
there's still a period of time where they
can come back.
Right? And that's one of the interesting parts of your timeline experience. The other timeline contacting you,
yes,
while you're existing now in this timeline, which they hadn't had experienced before.
No, they hadn't had that experience before, and I didn't know about it. So what happened was that in this timeline, I was set to die around 2016, 2017.
I remember that.
And
she said you were booked till 2017.
Yes.
And that meant see you later.
Yes. And then in that timeline, people can, like I said, live for a very long time. In that timeline, my body died through an accident. And me, it's like I saw my soul part, didn't want to die. It was very interested. I found fascination and experience of living and was pulled into this timeline by the human collective. Also, of course, all agreed upon, right? At certain levels. So I was pulled in here because nobody here, not many people here agreed to my leaving.
Yeah, very few.
Huh?
Yeah, very few.
Yeah, very few. So I was pulled in and I continued living here because my body there was gone. But my body there was found and it was taken into, about 5 days later, I think it was, got into the healing pods things that exist there. And I have spoken a little bit about how those look in my latest book that we're going to be releasing in the next few months. the Planet of Entry, which is part 3 of the Return series, I explain a little bit how those pods work there. Anyways, what happens is healers are groups of people. They're not just one individual. So a group of healers with their skills and abilities, when somebody has that type of experience and the body is what we might consider here dead, the link between the soul and the body is severed, they put the remains in a tub of liquid, and the liquid is, I'm starting to understand, because I wasn't part of that group, I didn't know, not interested in those things. I'm starting to understand it's like something to do with structured water and all sorts of minerals and things that are in there, and maybe, I don't know, but it's something like that. And the frequencies, it's very keen to receive frequencies and replicate them. So the remains are placed there, and then the group of healers are around this tub, like a pool of water, and they start getting into an altered state of awareness, expanded state of awareness together, and they start asking the soul, are you there? Are you there? Are you there? Through the body. And they do this for days. They don't give up right away. They do it for days. And if after so many days, I don't know how many, there's no answer, then they take the remains out of the tub and have a funeral. But otherwise, often the soul is still linked, and they'll say, yeah, I'm here. And then they will go full on to heal the body, bring it back to its previous condition, and the soul wakes up the body and everything's good. So the physical injuries that I received in the accident were very, very severe. And the tub, the connection was there, and then I was sleeping. We were in the Inelia, and you were sleeping next to me. And for 2 or 3 days, I could hear their words, right? Are you there? Are you there? Like a pulsating thing. It was driving me nuts. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. It's like,
should I answer or not?
If I like it here, this is very interesting here. This is so different, right? This timeline. I'm very fascinated. But if I say, yes, I am, then they're going to pull me back. But then this body's going to die, and then I won't be able to come back and experience and explore this place. And, but it was like really loud. And I thought, yeah, but if I don't answer, I'm like kind of lying, I don't know if I can do that. How long can I do that for? So I waited and waited. And then eventually, very, very quietly said, yes. And then they went full on to heal that body, like full on. To rebuild the body. And the connection got very strong, and I said, yeah, but wait, because they were pulling me in back into the body. I said, wait, pause that, because, and I explained, I'm in a different timeline. I have a physical body, and the physical bodies are considered sacred temples, right? And I don't want to leave here. This is fascinating. It's so very different to what we know as reality. And then they became very, very excited as that was reported to the different guilds that might be relevant, because that's never happened before, to have a direct connection between 2 timelines. Direct and conscious connection. I figured out it was a different timeline about 20 minutes in that journey by car back to the Washington. Because, of course, I was familiar with timelines in both timelines, both in this memories and also that one. I could tell people were changing timelines there too. So I figured, oh my God, I'm going through one of those timeline things, like a big one. So anyways, yeah, so that's one of the big differences, that people can live thousands of years if they choose to, but that also means that the person can mature. And one of the first things also that I did on that trip, or soon after, was scan the planet Earth here to find the adults here so that I could go talk to them.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right? And I couldn't find any.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do?
There's no adults.
There's no adults here.
It's just candy stores everywhere.
I know. It's like, oh no. It's like, we're in trouble. There's no adults here. So, but then, well, because I told this story to a few people and more people, and I have told this story publicly before, and people have come up, and, there's been a lot of interesting people spontaneously saying, I'll be an adult, I'll do whatever it takes, I'll do all the work and mature, I'll mature. And I volunteered to be an adult for the planet. That really surprised me, it was really fantastic when those people said that. But of course, over in that timeline, I was barely a toddler at 50. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't an adult there.
That's why you were looking for one, right?
Yes, exactly. And so it's like, okay, what do the adults over there have to say about this? Yeah. So there was a lot of fascination. And I was telling them about Larry. It's like, apparently, married or something. And to live with this guy. Can you scan for him over there? Because maybe they can talk to each other, because it's kind of really difficult to live with this person. And because it's like, it was. Maybe they can have a word. And they did. They scanned your frequency, and they scanned the frequencies over there, and they found your expression of Larry over there. And he was and that's where the words, the brooms and brides of Gaia.
Grooms of Gaia.
Yeah, came in, because you were a part of a guild that worked directly with Gaia, which was, a lifetime job. And people stay in that job for thousands of years. And there was 2 or 3 or 4 or more people who I know that were in that guild. So they contacted you to help. And you went to where my body was at the time, and they made the connection with you, and you made that connection with that expression of you, and it wasn't pretty. Because what's one of the main energies of brooms?
Rightness.
Righteousness.
We just call it rightness.
Rightness. Other words for righteousness, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh my gosh. So then I got mad at you and him.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have anything to do with either of you.
Yes.
Until you guys, figured it out and made up, because there was a lot of aggression there through righteousness. Yeah.
Rightness, honey, rightness.
Yeah.
Just right.
Basically, he couldn't believe what was happening on this earth, and all the pollution and all the whatevers that are happening here.
All of the things that in that one, Gaia, and the connection of Gaia and people in a light paradigm equals a certain experience that has nothing like this one. Nothing like this one. I mean, a little bit, but.
I mean, yeah. So it's a full technological timeline, but it's not harmful technology.
Yeah, it's the easiest one I can explain it now is our Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. All of the Wi-Fi signals going through and around all the cities, all the planets, all the houses, all the planes, all the phones, everything. All of that signal, none of it is supportive of life.
Mm-hmm. Here.
It's all like discordant frequency. Mm-hmm. And it's all like destructive. And it's all a little bit this, a little bit that. It's a little bit not enough to boil you. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess maybe if you add up enough of them, it boils you. But it's all in all, if you were to hear it, you would sound like going all the time, and that would be very annoying.
Yes.
And so on the other timeline reality, that sound is more like dun, 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 dun,
yeah, supportive of life.
Yeah, it's a lot more concordant, supportive, and designed that way from the outset. It's like the first consideration, does it support life and the coordination and cooperation of all life in this area? Or does it even actually help it?
Yes.
Yeah. If it can be made to help it and nourish it, let's do that. Yes. If it can just at least be not harmful, that's minimum.
Right.
That's the minimum. Yeah. And here, it's not even on the table. The table is, all right, if I have this, does it kill anybody right away?
Yeah,
I mean, right away is the measure.
Yes.
Or does it take longer than we measured?
Yeah. How far can we go before they die? Okay, let's get it right there.
Yes. Okay, you got it.
And so the Larry from that timeline went after this one. How could you let it happen?
How could you let that happen there? Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
So anyways, lots of more interesting details. But I think that's enough for the first
Yeah, I think that's enough for our first part. I think if you're interested in the kind of thing we're talking about, some more stories, hey, second hour, see you there.
So see you there.
Bye.